Today is Friday, March 6. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Jamaica is ready to deal with any impact that could result from the potential outbreak of the coronavirus COVID-19 locally. So says Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Speaking at a meeting of the National Disaster Risk Management Council at Jamaica House on Thursday, Holness said the government is always in a state of readiness and preparedness for eventuality.
There is a sense in the Jamaican public regarding their government sometimes that the government is not prepared. And I want to allay that fear and dispel that sense that the government of Jamaica is always in a state of readiness and preparedness. We have long since changed our government posture to not just being able to respond to the occurrence, but to have a long-term standing posture of managing risks. So we are always in a state of preparedness and readiness.
The meeting was convened to discuss the COVID-19 threat and Jamaica's level of preparedness. The Prime Minister noted that while the COVID-19 threat is a serious situation that requires diligence and an elevated sense of caution, there is no need for panic.
There is a sense sometimes that when these emergencies loom, there should be panic. I am not saying here to Jamaica that we don't have a serious situation, that it doesn't require diligence and an elevated sense of caution. But there is no need for panic. There is absolutely no need for panic. Because that panic leads sometimes to actions which can have long-term effects, certainly on our economy and how Jamaica is viewed as a hospitable, open, friendly society.
So far, there have been more than 97,000 reported cases of the virus worldwide, including the Caribbean countries of Dominican Republic, St. Martin and St. Bart's. $792 million has been added to the 2020-2021 estimates of expenditure, adjusting it from $852.7 billion to $853.5 billion. The additional funds will be tunneled into the operations of the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, which will be integrated into the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark made the disclosure while speaking during Tuesday's sitting of Parliament's Standing Finance Committee, which was reviewing the 2020-2021 estimates of expenditure.
These include the Boosting Innovation, Growth and Entrepreneurship Ecosystems project for $485.8 million, the Rural Development Economic Initiative 2, $100 million, the Rural Road Rehabilitation Maypen to Soursop, which is $400 million, the Jamaica Integrated Community Development Project 2, which is $570 million, and the Primary and Secondary Schools Infrastructure Project at $1 billion. A contingency provision of $3.4 billion is allocated under Head 20,000C, Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, for financing public investment project proposals, which are expected to advance through the PIMSEC, the Public Investment Management System screening and appraisal process, and attain approval of the Cabinet for implementation during the course of the financial year. Expenditure of $852.7 billion, which is comprised of non-debt above the line expenditure of $527.6 billion, made up of $453.4 billion of non-debt recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure of $74.2 billion. And this is supplemented by debt service expenditure of $287.8 billion, made up of interest at $132.7 billion and amortization at $155.2 billion, with non-debt below the line expenditure of $37.3 billion.
Additionally, he said the provision of $232 billion for recurrent programs represent an increase of $10.5 billion or 4.4% of the second 2019-2020 supplementary estimates. Meanwhile, Dr. Clark noted that the proposed 2020-2021 public bodies net expenditure for the upcoming fiscal year totals $441 billion.
The group of public bodies has proposed net expenditure for 2020-21 of $441 billion, and this is comprised of recurrent expenditure of $356.5 billion, $0.4 billion, and non-debt capital expenditure of $78.9 billion, and amortization of $7.7 billion. Both the National Housing Trust at $42.9 billion and the National Water Commission at $11.5 billion account for 75% of the planned capital expenditure for the group of public bodies.
The Ministry of National Security is working with halls of learning to engage 16 schools from at-risk communities to participate in the annual World Robotic Olympiad Jamaica competition. The announcement comes following the third and final mentorship session for coaches, which was held at the HOL's head office in Kingston on Thursday. Participants were given robotics kits, which comprise parts needed to build a robot, as well as Lego bricks to participating schools. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Jang said schools targeted by gangs for recruitment in communities with high incidence of violence were identified to participate in the program. He added that given their new immersion into this area, coaching support is afforded to teachers from the respective schools. The program aims to develop skills and interest while promoting behavior modification, emotional regulation, and practice in literacy and numeracy. The World Robotics Organization is a global robotics competition for children and young people. Over 100,000 participants, 22,000 teams, and representatives from over 70 countries. The Jamaica Teachers Association says it's doubtful about the government's Education in Emergencies Alert System, EIE, which requires that schools procure additional hygiene products and facilitate online and digital learning to prevent the potential spread of the novel coronavirus. The Bulletin 38-2020, dated March 3, 2020, says that the Ministry of Education advised public schools. The ministry has made arrangements for all schools to be provided with $30,000 to $50,000 to procure and make readily available all students and staff with hand sanitizers, hand washing soap, Lysol, and other towels. School administrators are asked to procure these items with immediate effect from available funds. The ministry went on to say that primary schools will be reimbursed by March 6, 2020, while the secondary schools reimbursement will be sent in the fourth tranche of the regular grant that is due April 2020. However, speaking to the Jamaica Observer on Thursday, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Owen Speed, said the details of the system needed to be fleshed out as it didn't appear to be well thought through. He's quoted saying, "Who tells them that the funds are available? That's my concern. My other concern is, will this be a monthly, per term, or one-off disbursement? Because the virus, if it hits, won't be one-off. It's going to continue and spread." End quote. The EIE is a three-tiered system speaking to various actions to be implemented at each stage of an emergency. Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC plans to introduce a new fare collection system to combat continued loss of revenue due to fraud. Transport Minister Robert Montague made the announcement at Wednesday's meeting of Parliament's Standing Finance Committee. In the meantime, the minister announced that the JUTC is to spend $252 million this fiscal year to refurbish several of its buses. He said mostly articulated buses will be refurbished. And Clarendonians can expect another by-election in the coming months, this time to replace Pernell Charles Sr., who has reportedly handed in his resignation as Member of Parliament. His resignation, which is expected to take effect after swearing in his son Pernell Charles Jr., will be confirmed on Friday. Charles Sr., the four-term MP for Clarendon North Central, witnessed his son winning the Clarendon Southeast by-election over independent candidate Derek Lambert on Monday. Charles Jr. polled 6,846 votes to Lambert's 741. The Electoral Office of Jamaica issued its final count this week. Charles Sr., who's 83 years old, has publicly indicated that he would not be seeking re-election. Prime Minister Andrew Holness visited the 65th staging of the Hague Agricultural and Industrial Show in Trelawny on Wednesday. Mr. Holness noted the importance of agriculture to the economy, as well as the dangers posed by climate change.
Is a very important part of the Jamaican economy. Agriculture is literally the base of our economy. And if agriculture doesn't grow, you can be very certain that you will not have strong growth or any growth at all in the economy. There are many threats to our agriculture. The most significant threat, obviously, we encapsulate it in two words: climate change. The government is very much aware of these things. And what we have been trying to do is to modernize our agriculture. We have to change our practices, and we have to integrate technology into our agriculture. We have to be far more agile as farmers in integrating technology into what we do.
The community of Woodside St. Mary, which last year emerged winner of the Caribbean Cement Company's Build Your Community competition, has received its prize. Recently, Carib Cement officially handed over the Woodside Ancestral Garden, an initiative conceptualized by the community more than 15 years ago, but was realized only after they won the opportunity to receive a project valued at $5 million Jamaican dollars.
But in petitioning the Caribbean Cement Company for help with creating our ancestral garden, we presented it as the expansion of our educatourism product. My question to my family villagers has been how to keep a space sacred and at the same time use it to further our educatourism product, which puts some coins into the pockets of some young men in this village who have been operating as a tour guide for many years. The answer is that a tourism product allows us to spread the concepts of peace and love and the distinction between the sacred and the profane beyond our village and out to the world of our visitors. This is our task now that the Caribbean Cement Company has hearkened to our plea and has upgraded the space in which we and like-minded people can sit comfortably and meditate, can in the arms of our ancestors quietly examine the problem rather than taking a big stick to it. Not all of us had reached a point where we could undertake this memorializing by ourselves. We thank the Carib Cement Company for helping to make us this possible.
We take social responsibility very seriously and have quietly, over the years, given generously to many causes that have resulted in big changes in the lives of people. In the past 3 years, we have committed more than 200 million Jamaican dollars to CSR outreach, which has had a positive impact on more than 200,000 Jamaican men, women, boys and girls across 180 communities. We do believe that strong, cohesive communities help to build a greater Jamaica, and the aim of the Carib Cement Build Your Community competition was to reward a community that is able to work together to win and thereafter successfully maintain the infrastructure for the benefit of everyone in the neighborhood.
Need a little bit more understanding, and after everything, we said, okay, let's get the bush out. So we cut out all of the small shrubs and trees and clear the space. That took about 2 weeks, because we decided that we're gonna use, manpower so the community can benefit from the project. In order for us to do concrete down here or anywhere, of course we needed water. So one of the first things we did also was to ensure that there was a water tank installed inside the existing malfunctioning water tank here, a black rhino tank. We did some walkways. You'd have seen where we did walkways at the top where you have the bathrooms, steps, rails, and then we said, let's demonstrate some of what you can do with concrete. So we did a stamped concrete surface up there. That's where you see the cobblestone looking kind of. When you leave that stamped concrete coming down between that the trail, you're walking on soil cement. Now, what soil cement is, it allows you to have a hardened surface, just like concrete, but it looks like the dirt. So it won't get eroded, you won't have weeds growing up in it. But that was it. They just dug up the earth, add the cement, then they place it back with some moisture, some water, and then that becomes a soil cement. You would have seen the steps coming down the rails. We did a lot of that. We did the wall over there. The names of the ancestors will be mounted onto that in some aluminum plates. It should look really beautiful. We also did the Taino hut. And of course, we tried our best to replicate what it should look like. Lastly, we decided that we wanted to demonstrate what a concrete road looks like. So even though that wasn't in the original idea of the project, we said, let's show the community, let's start it, let's do this job. And we did that in one day with the community members. They just mixed concrete and placed concrete in one day and did that. And that was like half day. And that's pretty much what we did for the community.
With gratitude today, we are gathered to dedicate and consecrate this sacred place in the name of God. We want to thank those who are the architects of this, those who have the vision, and those who came on board as stakeholders to make today a reality.
Hahom Karibe Cement, Kuma, Woodside Yukuno, Umun Tauroni, Operito.
Thank you to Carib Cement and the Woodside community for remembering our ancestors.
Dasika labenani alukurun. Dasika ba. Seneko kakona.
I give the first blessing, and they give abundant blessings.
The US dollar is being traded at $135.59, down by 14 cents. According to the Bank of Jamaica's daily exchange trading summary, the Canadian dollar is being traded at $102.54, up from $101.79, while the British pound sterling is being traded at $174.75, up from $173.66. In regional news, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, has upgraded the region's risk of COVID-19 virus from low to moderate high in light of the increase of the importation of the virus to the region. According to CARPHA's Executive Director, Dr. Joyce St. John, health authorities of member states must shift their mindset from preparedness to readiness and a rapid response and continue to do all that is necessary to strengthen their capacity to respond to possible importation of cases. Based on this upgrade, stakeholders in the regional tourism and health sectors are in the process of implementing readiness and response measures to prevent and contain the virus. The recently established COVID-19 Caribbean Tourism Task Force, in a statement issued by the leaders of member organizations, indicated that a memorandum of understanding has been agreed upon by the organizations to foster closer collaborations. The organizations acknowledged concerns about the high level of misunderstanding about the virus, which has elevated the panic at the global level and resulted in the dissemination of a high level of misinformation. International observer teams called on the Guyana Elections Commission GECOM to ensure transparency in the counting of the ballots in Region 4. As riot police surrounded the headquarters of the commission on Thursday night, the Guyanese voters await the results of Monday's regional and general elections. News source Guyana's Gordon Mosley has this story.
The Guyana Elections Commission this evening released the declared results for Region 4. The results were declared by the returning officer, although the verification process was not completed. The Region 4 results show the APNU AFC winning 136,458 votes in Region 4, compared to the PPP's 77,239 votes. That's a difference of 59,219 votes, which absorbs the PPP's overall lead, with all of the regions declaring. With all 10 administrative regions declaring their results, those results show the APNU AFC now with 237,140 votes to the PPP's 229,450 votes, an overall lead of 7,690. PPP General Secretary Barra Jagdew has said he will not accept the results because the verification process had not been completed. He also complained that based on the statements that his party has in its possession, they won the elections by more than 17,000 votes. The PPP statements showed it losing Region 4, but gaining an additional 10,000 votes over its 2015 performance, while the APNU AFC only picked up 489 votes over its 2015 performance in the same statements being published by the PPP. Jagdew said the Elections Commission and the APNU AFC have stolen the elections and he will fight it. Meanwhile, in a statement, the Commonwealth Observer Mission headed by former Prime Minister of Barbados Owen Arta said it is the clear view of the group that a tabulation of the final election results has not yet been completed and verified according to the established procedures and relevant legal and statutory provisions. The Commonwealth Observer Group said it strongly urges the Guyana Elections Commission and all parties involved to ensure the process properly. The Commonwealth Observer Group said it strongly urges the Guyana Elections Commission and all the parties involved to ensure the process properly follows the legal steps dictated by the laws of Guyana and is in line with the country's international commitments. And this evening, the diplomatic missions of the United States, the UK, Canada, and the European Union issued a joint statement. And in that statement, they said, based on their observation of today's GECOM proceedings at their Region 4 office and the fact that a full count was not completed, they questioned the credibility of the Region 4 results published by the Guyana Elections Commission today. The four missions said they urged the Guyana Elections Commission and all relevant actors to expeditiously complete the tabulation on the basis of the statements of poll. They said they call on all Guyanese to remain calm and patient, and for all leaders to exercise responsibility and restraint. The officials also met earlier this evening with President David Granger. The details of that meeting were not released.
In related news, head of the CARICOM Election Observation Mission to Guyana's March 2, 2020 elections, Cynthia Comby, presented her preliminary report at the press conference at the CARICOM Secretariat on Wednesday.
On polling day, the CARICOM election observers were deployed to polling stations in regions 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. We visited approximately 360 polling stations across the country, and we feel satisfied to report the following preliminary observations. As it relates to the conduct of the poll, CARICOM election observers who witnessed the election process and the conduct of the poll from opening to closing through to the subsequent counting of the ballots formed a preliminary assessment of the poll and were impressed by the efficiency, competence, and professionalism of the poll officials in carrying out their duties. This is a demonstration of the level and standard of the training provided by GECOM.
Ms. Comby Martyr noted that while there were some issues on polling day, the process was relatively smooth.
Throughout the day, polling progressed smoothly in a peaceful environment and in an orderly manner. There was generally excellent knowledge of the process by the polling officials and compliance with and adherence to the rules and regulations. There were, however, some minor issues which were identified, which were mostly resolved and which, in the mission's opinion, were not significant to materially affect the overall outcome of the poll. Polling was executed smoothly, with acceptable delays relating to persons to whom oaths and declarations had to be administered by the presiding officers. Generally, a pleasant atmosphere of peace and calm amongst electors, with no sign of hostility amongst electors. the observers did not observe any incidents of violence.
She did register some concerns.
However, CARICOM observers were concerned about the following. 1. Access ramps and other support structures to the polling stations, polling places for differently abled members of Guyanese society were not always available. 2. School-located polling stations that had ground floor access were not utilized and instead were located in the upper floors, thereby creating undue serious difficulty for differently abled electors. That notwithstanding, CARICOM observers were impressed by the special consideration and additional assistance given to differently abled electors by presiding officers, other GECOM staff, and EDA volunteers.
Trinidad and Tobago's Attorney General Faris Alwari is hailing government's criminal justice reform as a huge success. This comes on the heels of the sentencing of British Queen's Counsel Vincent Nelson, who pleaded guilty to money laundering and fraud charges stemming from an alleged conspiracy involving former Attorney General Anand Ramlogan and former UNC Senator Gerald Ramdeen. The AG addressed the matter at Thursday's post-cabinet media briefing. TTT's News' Crystal Wilson filed this report.
Attorney General Faris Alwari says the sentencing of British Queen's Counsel Vincent Nelson is testimony that reform of this country's criminal justice system is indeed working. Nelson was charged last May in connection with a series of financial transactions and alleged rewards involving legal fees paid to him for representation in state briefs while Anand Ramlogan was Attorney General. Fines totaling $2.5 million were imposed on the Queen's Counsel, who was sentenced by Justice Malcolm Holdip on Monday afternoon. According to the AG, the matter was no small undertaking, but was concluded in just 1 year.
But the Vincent Nelson matter involved a conviction and sentencing for money laundering in what has been described as the largest case of money laundering and conspiracy to commit fraud in Trinidad and Tobago to be completed.
Queen's Counsel Nelson was ordered by the judge to pay the fines in monthly installments over the course of the next year. Should he fail to make the other payments, he will be made to serve a term of imprisonment. He was also placed on a bond to keep the peace for a period of 3 years, or in default, serve 2 years hard labor. Mr. Alwari said this sentencing has underscored the need to change this country's justice system.
Not only was a matter completed in a matter of a year, plea discussion, plea agreement, conviction, and sentencing. And that is a landmark decision for this country. It is a landmark decision in the Commonwealth.
The Attorney General said Mr. Nelson's sentencing is what this country has been begging for and referred to it as a landmark decision.
For all people who are crying for big fish to have consequences, in my recollection, I don't recall ever a charge, a fine of $2.25 million having been levied, certainly not for a money laundering matter. And money laundering is the subject of taking the profit out of crime.
The AG said in the meantime, others charged jointly with Vincent Nelson are innocent until proven guilty. He also added that it's time for citizens to agitate for whistleblowing laws and called on the opposition to stop resisting legislation surrounding the matter. Crystal Wilson, TTT News.
In sports, we go to athletics. The first round of the 100 meters events will highlight Friday's opening session of the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association's CARIFTA trials, which is set to get underway at the National Stadium starting 4:30 p.m. The three-day event will be used to select Jamaica's team to the 49th CARIFTA Games that will be held April 10 to 13 in Devonshire, Bermuda. And in other sporting news, St. George's College went to a one-wicket win over Papine in the semi-final round of the Issa Grace Shield competition on Thursday. Sent to bat, Papine were dismissed for 103 inside 43 overs as Lewin took 4 for 38 for the Light Blues. Elsewhere, Wolmer's completed an 8-wicket win over Kingston College at Coverley Park. Sent to bat, KC were dismissed at 156 despite fight 117 by Stephen Wedderburn. Needing 157 for the win, Wilmers posted 159 for 2 as Corey Hines led the way to an unbeaten 69. Fellow opener Phillips contributed 40 to the total. And that's the news on PBCJ. Have a pleasant weekend.